What's up everybody, it's CRCLman here. Welcome to another tutorial here in Rec Room. Today I'm going to show you how to make something that follows you in Rec Room. So if you've ever played the Weeping Angels game or the Wendigo, or I think the other one is Circus Freak where the enemy follows you, I'm going to show you how to make that. Alright, so the first thing you want to do obviously is make your room and make your floor. Okay, you're going to need to kind of already have an idea of the floor and the area that you want that thing to follow you in. To start off, let's go ahead and actually define that area with some pistons. So we're going to go to, let's see, gadgets, gizmos, and then piston. So just pick a corner of your floor. So for instance, if this is the entire area, we can do that corner, that corner, that corner. We're just going to do this corner. So let's take one piston and we're going to just turn it that way to go that way. And we're going to have one more piston go 90 degrees to it, so that way. And you'll see this little green thing. This is kind of the defined area for your enemy or the thing that's going to follow you. It will only follow the person in this kind of square that these green lines make. And if you want to make that area bigger, you just configure them. And let's go, it says max travel distance of 5. Let's go 15. I think that's 15. So let's see. 15, I think that's about, that might be a little too big. Let's just do 14 because 14 is just about there at the edge. And then this one should be the same. So let's configure that and do 14. So just to reiterate, with that kind of defined, your NPC or your thing that's going to follow your player, it's just going to be within this kind of green square. So it's basically just limited to the square these green lines make. So now we're actually going to kind of start working on the contraption that moves, okay? Let's go ahead and open the palette, and you're going to want a look at gizmo. Put it in the corner here. It doesn't really matter where it's pointing at the moment, but we'll just leave it right there. And then we need a cube and a weapon. So you can make it follow a player by changing their role. I would recommend you do it with a weapon first and then switch over to player once you kind of get everything worked out. So you need the look at gizmo, you need some sort of weapon. Let's just use the blunderbuss and let's put it somewhere close to the look at gizmo. So we'll just put it right there. And then you also need to make some sort of a cube. I mean, it could be a sphere. It can really be whatever shape you want it to be. A cube is the easiest, so let's just do that. Now, this cube, you're actually going to want to spawn it kind of directly under the look at, maybe even a little forward. But you really want it to go underneath the map. So once you make it, go ahead and move it all the way under the map. You don't want it really visible, at least at the moment. Everything, let's pull it down just a little bit more. Alright, so also let's go ahead and configure, let's get done with that. Let's go ahead and configure this so that it's grabbable. And we're going to go ahead and name this tag. We're going to add a tag to this rather. Let's just go 1, 2, 3, just because it's simple. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so that one is now tagged 1, 2, 3. And we're going to have this look at gizmo look at it. So configure that for object, tag to follow. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then let's go ahead. Once you change this 0, configure it, change it to 1. It is going to go ahead and start looking at that object. All right, so now that you have it looking at the object, you want to hit wire, and you want to wire this to the cube you have below the floor. So let's go ahead and wire that together. You kind of want this wire that's made between them, you kind of want that as straight up and down as you can get it. All right, so this next part is going to require some trigger zones. So we're going to go gadgets, other gadgets. Let's do trigger volume, and I'm going to go ahead and set the snap to 100 for this one because you want them to be kind of big. So let's fly under the map, and we're going to make 4 trigger zones all surrounding this cube. And you don't want it touching it. You want it just off a little bit. That should be okay. But I am going to move it down a little bit so it's kind of even with it, even though we are going to make it bigger. So you have this one here. Let's go ahead and configure this one for objects, and we're going to have it search for the tag. Since we did 1, 2, 3 on that one, we're going to do 4, 5, 6 on this one, and we're going to tag this one as 4, 5, 6. So add a tag 4, 5, 6. Okay, there we go. All right, yeah, so as I said, you're going to want to do 4 of these around the outside, and you're going to want to have these arrows pointing outward. So, for instance, when I clone this one here, I'm going to clone it and move it over right there, move it down just a little bit. Ooh. Move it down. There we go. And I'm going to flip it the other way because I want the arrows pointing outwards. You technically don't have to do that, but it will make it easier once you start hooking things up. So let's give it a little rotate here all the way. And again, you're going to want the ones on the other side. All right, so we have our 4 trigger zones here. We want to go ahead and expand them so that they overlap in the corner areas. So let's just manipulate each one and make it go just out to where they kind of intersect and they make this corner zone. I'm going to do that for all of them. Now, I'm going to increase the snap on this because we really need these zones to be pretty big. So I'm going to go ahead and make the snap 100, and I'm going to go ahead and just expand it outward. Okay, so you can see out of all of these, they each have their own kind of individual section, and then they have a larger section where they all intersect. But now we're also going to go up and down. So let's just go up and down maybe 3 more clicks just so it covers all of it. The bigger you make the trigger zone, it seems to work a little bit better. So all right, so now we have all of these trigger zones. They're all working, but right now that center cube is not touching any of them. And this is the part that becomes a little tricky because you may have to do some change by making these walls bigger or smaller once we actually get it to start working. Now what we're going to want to do is hook up some of these different gizmos, if you will. Let's wire the look at gizmo to either one of these. It doesn't matter which one. It will matter later, but let's just go ahead. So you just hook this gizmo up to that, and you're also going to want to hook all 4 of the trigger zones up to this. So let's go ahead and wire it to, that one is the far right one, or whatever that one is. Let's see, this one is that one. So in all, this should have 5 things attached to it. I think we've already done that one. That one. There's 3, and then we have, whoops, wrong one. And then we have 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 trigger zones, and then the gizmo. Okay, and then we want to hook this piston up to that piston. Oh, wait, what did that do? That did not do what I wanted it to do. Whoopsie. What did it hook up to? Did it hook up to the wall? There we go. We want to hook this piston up to this. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, now this part gets a little mathy, but we're gonna need a couple of chips to do it. So let's go gadgets and math chips. We are gonna need a variable chip. We're gonna need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need 6 of these chips, and 2 of them or 4 of them need to be multiplication. So let's go ahead and configure 4 of them for multiplication. Boom. And they kind of actually need to be like variable, multiplication, plus, and then you need another group of multiplication, and plus. All right, so we're going to go ahead and configure this variable chip. We're going to make the first one 50. So essentially this number is the speed of the enemy. Right now but we're going to do 50, but if you want it to go faster or slower, then just change this. This is the speed. And then this one, actually let's take the blue just because it's just looks nicer. So I'm going to make the blue one -50. -50. Whoops. -50. There we go. All right, so we have positive and negative. What you want to do is hook up the positive to this top one here, but you also want to hook it up to the top one on this set. Okay, and you want to hook up the negative to the next multiplication in the first set, and then also there. And then you want to hook up the output from these 2 multiplication chips to this combinator. So let's see, or addition rather, you can say it that way. There we go. So those 2 are being added together. You want to do the same thing with this. Oh, this one didn't. No, it attached. And you want to hook this one up to that, this one up to that, and there you go. So now The way this works is you're going to hook each individual trigger zone up to one of these chips. When you move this gun that way, the little cube down there is going to move into just this trigger zone, just the trigger zone that goes this way. And you want that to indicate that it should move that direction. So then you're going to want to put positive 50 into the green here. So what we want to do is hook up this trigger zone so that when it's activated, it's going to send plus 50 to this and tell it to go this way. All right, so we want to hook up the green pin of this to the positive 50 on our first set of addition and multiplications. So this one is the one that said positive 50. Let's go there. So now whenever it hits this trigger zone that goes this way, it'll put positive 50 coming out of here, because it would be a 1 times 50, and then it will send through there. But then you want to hook up the negative to the trigger zone opposite of the one that you just did. So let's hook it up to this one back here. There we go. So now let's say that we run this way with it, it follows us, and then we run back. The cube will then go into the trigger zone going this way back there, telling it to go backwards. We want to do the same thing with the other two trigger zones. So let's go ahead, if that piston right there, the positive direction is this way, so whenever the cube goes in this one, we want it to go that way, we want it to say positive 50. So we're going to hook this one up to, this is the second set now, and this is the positive up here. So we're going to hook it up to that. All right, and then we want to do the same over here, but we want to hook it up to negative because it's going to go backwards on the piston. So there we go. Now you've just got to hook these on up. Remember that this set here goes for the back and forth, so we want to hook this up to the green pin on the one going back and forth. So that would be there, and then we want to hook this one up that goes left and right to the green pin on this one. Now I'm going to turn these on by changing this to 1 and that one to 1. Now they're on, so if I pick up this weapon and it starts moving and hitting the trigger zones, it should start following me. Let's make our Weeping Angel, our NPC or whatever. We're actually going to use Eddie for it. This is a good instance for me to have Eddie following you. So we've got Eddie, right? We have Eddie. Eddie, our lovely alien mascot for the channel. We want Eddie looking at the weapon. So that should work fine. And let's wire him to... And as a matter of fact, you know what we're going to do? We're going to move him inside this, because there's no reason... He needs to kind of be this, actually. But we're going to hook him up. I'm going to wire Eddie to... the look at. Okay, now he should be hooked up. So now, when I pick up this weapon, Eddie should start following me. Okay? There we go. He's starting to follow me. Now, it's not perfect. It's working. It's not perfect. I think the issue I'm having here is that it's too high. So what I'm going to do is move it down just slightly. But there you go. It is working. It is following me. It's not moving super fast, but it is following me wherever I go. And you can see the cube, but you know, there's minor adjustments you can do to make the cube not visible, especially if it's a dark room, if it's something like that. Not a perfect system, but you can see that it does work. And if you calibrate it a little bit more than what I've done here, you can make it to where the cube won't actually show. And again, if we change, let's go ahead and just leave that where it is. If we change the number here, because right now it's moving kind of slow, it's moving at 50. Which I thought was actually going to be faster. But if we change these numbers, let's go ahead and make it 100. We're going to do 100. Okay, and then let's change this one to negative 100. So now, when I pick that weapon up, it should move double the speed that it was moving earlier. And it looks like it is. So we're also going to show you how to make it follow somebody with a certain role. Like I said earlier, I recommend you do it with the weapon first, just so you can kind of get all the circuitry and everything worked out, move the cube around and everything. But if you want to do it with a role, let's go ahead and give myself a certain role here. So let's go a role chip, and I have a video that will explain how roles work up in the card here. So I have a little thing here that will give me new roll whenever I touch that with my hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and change Eddie over here so that he follows the person with new roll. So let's do that, new roll. Right now nobody has new roll, so he's got nothing to do, right? But when I come over here and I touch this, he should look at me and start following me. There we go. Look at that. And he's immediately coming after me. Again, this cube situation, I feel like that's the only caveat that I have here. I do want to recommend you visit a certain room. There's this room here called Toot NPC by Fandorn. And this room shows the exact same method that I show you on how to make something follow you. So I recommend going here, checking it out if you want to learn how to do this, if you need more of a hands-on approach with it. Alright everyone, well that's it for this tutorial on how to make something follow you in Rec Room. If you learned something, if you liked it, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good day everybody. RCL Man, out!